Hi everybody, my name is Nicole Branson and I am coming to you from New Beginnings Family Services. We're going to wait a little bit for people to join. This is Claire Lepore. She's the current foster parent. I'm going to be asking her a few questions. Oops. I don't know if anybody's joined yet. Okay.
Be short evening.
Okay, so there's two people on. Okay, so since you guys are just joining us, my name is Nicole. I'm from New Beginnings Family Services, and I am the foster parent recruiter and trainer. So during this video, you can feel free to ask any questions, and we would be happy to answer your questions. Feel free to say hello if you're out there. And hey everybody, hi. This is Claire Lepore. She's a foster parent through our agency. So we're just going to talk about some questions about fostering that some of you might have. Anyway, so Claire, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Claire Laporte, and my husband and I live in Union, Kentucky, and we have two children who are in school and also attempting adulting, and so I ended up getting us involved in fostering because the house was too empty and too quiet. So that's how I got involved.
Awesome. And you originally moved here from Canada, and
yeah, I've lived in the States for 30 years. My husband works for a Canadian aircraft manufacturer, so we've lived east, west, north, and south. And Kentucky's been our longest posting, and we'll be retiring in about a couple of years. So we saw some time, and we were just, I'm retired, so I just thought that I would fill my days doing something positive, I guess, that didn't revolve around sporting activities, because we used to run our children's hockey league and stuff like that. So just something that was separated from my family. Yeah, and what we've done in the past.
Good. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. So when did you first become a foster parent?
Became a foster parent 3.5 years ago, and this is the first time I've been a foster parent. And I've been with New Beginnings since the beginning, and I have one child that I have had in my home for that entire length of time. And now, fortunately or unfortunately for her, she's not leaving. But and then we've done several rounds of emergency placements. So we've done, I think, 5 different emergency placements where children had to be moved quickly, and because we have the space and I'm home, it just worked out so that I just kind of caught various children and families as they went from one location to another, or while they waited to be moved from one location to another.
Okay. So when you did the emergency placements, what were the pros and cons of that? Like, what did you like about it? What any stories, any big stories that you remember, that anything that occurred during that time that changed you maybe? Or
well, it made me realize that I'm not Superwoman.
Yeah.
Because
which nobody is Superwoman.
No, but you hope to have an impact on somebody's life. A lot of times they have more impact on my life than the other way around, but some of them you can really see the growth if you have them long enough. And unfortunately, like my last emergency placement, I only had them 9 days, Sam. because I see Sam's on there. I would have kept them. Had I not been housing another emergency placement set of siblings, I would have kept those 4. I would have fought for those 4. So they were a lot. They brought in a lot of joy and laughter, which is kind of refreshing. I hate to say, because removed tend to be traumatized. And some of them come from extremely bad situations. Not that this little group didn't have a bad situation, but I've had worse. So they were really good. They were really happy. They didn't withdraw. They didn't shut down. They were just fun and crazy, and one of them has horns underneath his hair. But even the kids that I have now, everybody, when those 4 left, everybody was kind of sad to lose them, because with the kids that I have now, they were all in perfect ages to be big brothers and big sisters, and so it kind of worked out well, because the girls teamed up with the girls, and the boys kind of followed the elder child in my home. So that was neat.
Oh, good. Yeah.
It was neat.
Well, who knows? Maybe one day you might get them back.
Well, I hope not, for their sake.
But you're keeping a relationship with them, right?
Yeah, they text me because they already miss me, and
not that they are not in their current foster home.
No, but I mean
they just created a relationship.
Just missed the transition, and we put together a 9-day life book, and some of the photos were good and some of the photos were crazy, but they have a memory from those 9 days. So,
which is amazing, and which all foster parents or foster parents that are going through training could definitely do. And it allows the child to create memories and keep them, memories that they may not have or be able to hold on to, when they're going other places, or even when they go back with their, when they're older, and when they're back possibly with their biological parents. We have a question from somebody that is online. Claire, how did you make the kiddos feel comfortable in your home when they first arrived?
I don't ever set a rule, and I don't ever set a chore, because I already figure that they're coming from a traumatic situation, or if it was the first time they were removed, they have never experienced going to a stranger's home. And in the last case, it was a different cultural family as well. So I just always bring them in. I have 2 dogs, or 1.5. I have my son's dog during the day, because evidently I run a doggy daycare too. And so the dogs are always there. And most kids who come in have either had experience with pets or cats. And even if they don't bond to you, they kind of bond to the animal, because the animals are always happy to see them, and they're always, looking for comfort and hugs and chase the ball. But I never set a rule. I try and learn as much as I can about the child before I start putting things in place. And then usually the things in place are just the standard rules of my home is you leave every room as you found it. And so that means if you came in and you took something out in order to play, before you were allowed to leave, you'd have to clean them after yourself. So they're actually they're cleaning without cleaning, but it's just a simple rule. I am really heavy on personal hygiene. So this last group, because they were really little, I taught them a song that I used to sing with my kids, and I'm sure that their permanent foster home thought they were crazy, because all you hear them is singing halfway through the ABC song, and once you get to G, then you say you wash your hands after you pee. So if you sing that twice, it gives you the 20 seconds that you need for them to actually have disinfected their hands.
Okay.
And so that brings song and music into your life. And the 4-year-old spent more of his time giggling because he was having to sing to wash his hands. But then every other time when they went into the bathroom, all the kids were singing. So just little things like that. I always have lots and lots of fruit and vegetables. There's absolutely no candy, no pop. So they're allowed to eat as much as they want. And in some cases, that can be a lot because some of them don't know when their next meal is going to be. They have that mindset because at some point in their childhood, they went hungry. And so you can see those kids, they pop out right away. But I just don't, I'm not a big commander in chief, and I don't get really regulated with them. So I let them kind of set the tone, and we build a relationship as we go.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the biggest things, right, that these children need.
And, you know, I have a set standard, though. Like, I mean, bedtime is same time, whether it's Wednesday night or Saturday night. I try and stick to a routine, too, so that they know what to expect.
Yeah, you have expectations and they know expectations, and you probably have a routine, right? Somebody else has a question.
Our bio parents, you know what?
Let's say, are bio parents normally easy to work with?
Yes and no. Here at this agency, I have the choice whether I want to interact with the bio parents or if I don't want to. So a lot of times I'm on supervised calls, and a lot of times, especially with the child that I'm adopting, I actually brought her to her visitation. And on a few occasions, I've actually been the one who has supervised the visits. Some bio parents, you're the enemy. Unfortunately, they hold you part of the removal of their child. But they do understand that somebody's going to do it. So you don't take that personally because they obviously didn't have the right role models or somebody that they could follow and guide them when they were struggling or when they were going through their own trauma. So, but you have a choice. I'm not sure that every agency does, but you can easily say, I don't want to have anything to do with the bio parents, and your social worker, your FCC, will be the intermediary.
Right. But what is your, I'm glad that you brought that up, because what is your experience, though, with the bio parents? Like, has it been, I know you mentioned that it was sometimes not, like the bio parents, thought of you maybe wrong, or, they had in their mind that it was supposed to be different. But did you ever have a relationship with the biological parents, and did you feel that made it better or worse?
Well, my long-term bio parent is still a child herself. Okay. So I have to take that into consideration. I'm older than most of the people who do this, and older than some of the people who have their children in care. My bio mom for the child that I'm adopting, in the beginning when she had the supervised phone calls, I guess at one point I hadn't hung up on time, and she overheard her daughter asking me what it was and why she was in foster care. At the time, she was only 6. And so I basically broke down the word foster care for her. And I said, sometimes we need a lot of help, and sometimes we don't. And on the times that we do need help, there are people like me who volunteer. And I said, we get to care for somebody else's child, which is why it's called foster care. We're just there to help to make sure that you are okay while your mommy or daddy work on their homework. So she'd overheard that. And in the next supervised call, she told me that she was very happy and she appreciated that explanation to her child, because I didn't put her in a negative light. I just, we all have our own baggage, our own struggles, and sometimes we need a little bit more help than others. So she at least felt comfortable that her child was placed in a decent home, and then it wasn't so much interaction between her and I. It was just the fact that she always felt that she could never do enough for what the state was requiring of her. So, but she wasn't, I didn't have to worry about threats, or she never texted me nasty messages or anything like that. It was just, what time are you going to call today? Because we also had a set schedule for supervised calls. We basically decided on 2 days a week at the time and what time we would do those calls. So, and if her schedule didn't wrap around that, then she would text me to let me know that, I'm going to be 15 minutes late, or I have to go to work for 7:30. Can I have our call at 6:30 instead? Something to that effect.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody's experience, I'm sure, in foster care is going to be different. Everybody who just joined, my name's Nicole. I'm from New Beginnings Family Services. I'm the recruiter trainer out here in Northern Kentucky. We're going to be doing this Facebook Live every Tuesday, and a different office will be doing it every Tuesday. We're going to have different topics and possibly have different people as guests come on. Today we have Claire Lepore, who is a current foster parent, and she's just sharing her experience in foster care and her experience with foster children in general. And our agency. So feel free to ask any questions. If you have questions, we'd love to hear from you. And I'm sure Claire would be happy to answer your questions as well. Something else that some other things that we're going to talk about. So what in general would you say are some pros to fostering or being a foster parent in general?
I think just the fact that in a snippet of someone's life, you're going to have a positive impact. That you're filling a gap in somebody's life, and although it's never the same as your biological home, because that's a completely natural relationship, from the get-go. But just knowing that, somebody may be put on a better path later on because of the things that you taught them, or taught how to respect themselves, how to respect other people, how to behave in the world. And even though there's not considered a class system in this country, there is a class system in this country, and what people expect. So, a lot of people who struggle to make a living don't think of a lot of things that their children might be getting or not getting, be it socially, be it culturally, be it academically. And even though the children might not be exposed to a lot of that, later on in life it'll still be expected of them, and they'll struggle because they won't have learned that as a child. So reading, writing, some of the kids come into care with speech impediments, and the parents are working full-time or doing whatever, and they don't have the time, they don't have the resources, or they might work 2 jobs and can't take a day off, because if you take a day off, you don't get paid. And some of them, of course, struggle to pay for the necessities. So you might not always have that child getting the services that they need. So for instance, one child that I have has a few of these issues, and the schools take care of them, but 15 minutes a month on a particular disability is nothing. So if I was to rely on that for the entire time, by the time this child was expected to actually be semi-independent, or even hopefully completely independent, he wouldn't have the skills. He wouldn't have the verbal skills.
So, so what are you doing for this child, or what services is New Beginnings offering that may be helping the
Well,
child?
just the supports for one. This child is in therapy every week, and I have that choice. He could be seen twice a month, but I find that for him, he needs it every week.
Mm-hmm.
He gets supports at school, and but I also have him doing occupational therapy, speech therapy, and we're doing some other medical testing with regards to nutrition and absorption, because he eats well, but his body is not working normally. So
you're finding services in the community, and
yeah.
Has your caseworker helped you find any services, or linked you up with any services?
My caseworker hasn't had to, simply because
the support out in the community.
Yeah, this is something that I, because I've already raised children, I'm kind of understand what my school district will and will not do unless I walk in with an attorney. And because the children are with you for such a short period of time, you never know how long they're going to be with you, honestly. The faster you get this in motion and in place and the services to the child, the better. If I waited for my school, they'd be doing the evaluations in May. And then come summer, and then maybe the child goes back to the bio home or his or her permanent foster home. So nothing's established. And then it gets kicked on to the next school district, next foster parent, and it's all subjective, and it's all dependent upon the foster parent that the kid is with.
But there are services out there.
Yes.
So that's what, she's trying to say is, you can find the services. Yeah. And your caseworker from New Beginnings and from the state can always help you find those services as well. So we have another question. Would you like to read it? Or?
It says, Claire, how much information do you normally share at your child's school about them being in foster care, specifically when they act out? Everything. They're bound by confidentiality laws. You usually, if you have a child that has an IEP, you're going to be dealing with the special ed instructors as well as the guidance counselor of the school. And depending upon what services, for evaluations, the therapists come in as well. So they have to know what your child is going through, and so that they don't, I don't want to say aren't as regimented, but so that they approach these children a little bit gentler. The more information that the educators have, the better, because they will approach your child very differently. If your child does not stand out as a foster kid and the teachers don't know, there are things that also trigger them. So louder voices or role playing that involve possibly, a pretend spanking or colors. So if you have all that information and or bathrooms, I'll use that one as an example. If you know that there is something that's involved in the trauma with certain things, the more information they have, the better. And they can help you work around it. So currently I'm working with the school nurse because I have a child that has an issue with bathrooms and public restrooms and toilets and a few other things, but I've got it now set up so that he can go to the bathroom in the nurse's station. Doesn't have to go to the bathroom in the boys' bathroom. So they are all aware, and most of them are super, super supportive because they've all been explained. And with the IEP, A lot of the issues are there as well as to why they're acting out. So if you understand what has happened to your child, believe it or not, there's certain things that they will automatically do. The kid isn't aware of what they're doing or why they're doing it, but it'll happen simply because it's been standard. So a child that has been sexually abused, let's say, and it varies to degrees, that child will be a bedwetter. And so you have to deal with that. And there are pull-ups even as big as me, and because I keep joking that they may end up changing my diaper, that you can help accommodate that child. And for instance, there's also Camp Joy runs camps for foster kids, and it's an annual program. So they all go to camp together 1 week before school starts, and they do 1 weekend a month. And those kids are aware. Some kids are in pull-ups. Some kids take medication. Some kids can't take loud noises. Some kids can't be yelled at. And I mean, some kids take your voice just being a bit louder than what they perceive as normal as yelling. You might not be yelling, or the camp counselor might not be yelling. But to yell to get 30 kids' attention, that may set one kid off. So they are all aware of these issues, and they try and deal with them, but the kids don't stand out. And so this is one perfect resource. It gives them a way to go to a camp, and they are also to a certain degree aware of what the children have been through. So whereas if you put a kid like that in a normal camp, I'm sure that other children would torment the heck out of them because they wear a pull-up to bed at 12 or 9, and that's not considered traditional or normal. But then that kid, can't explain why they're doing it. So, yeah. But your school should be told absolutely everything if you want as much help as possible.
Yeah, and going off that, she mentioned that she found out about different things from the child's past and stuff, and the more information that foster parents know about the child so that they can help the child is probably best, but sometimes we don't always find out everything, so it may be difficult, but you as a foster parent, you are the biggest advocate for the child. You are essentially the parent of the child, and so you're caring for the child in any way that you can advocate for the child, whether that be with the doctors, taking them to appointments, going to schools, and like she said, working with the nurse, and that's advocating for the child right there. Allowing the child to not feel uncomfortable being around his peers, and allowing him to go to the bathroom in a different place. So that alone is advocating. So any way that you can advocate, it could be in court, anywhere, is great. So does anybody else have any other questions right now? Again, if you joined us late when we were talking, I'm Nicole from New Beginnings. I am the recruiter trainer out here, and I have a current foster parent who has 3 children in her home. She offers respite for families as well. And she's been with the agency, how many years? 3.5 years. 3 years, okay. And so she has had a lot of children in her home. She's experienced a lot of different things with different children. So if you have any questions for her, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer any of those questions. And so if no one has any questions, I'm going to ask my next question. So how has fostering changed your life and your personal views maybe about the world, about the way you view a family, or yourself even, in your marriage? That's a big question.
My marriage?
Everything.
My marriage
has
is
changed
good.
your life?
How did it change my life? Basically, it kept my focus as I said we're older, and I'm already retired. My husband retires in 2 years, and it keeps us going. We kind of miss being able to follow and participate with our own kids. When you no longer are in a sporting venue 10 times a week and in a different town every weekend. My kids played ice hockey, and one of them at an extremely high level. So it would be nothing to be going to Boston to play hockey or Minneapolis to play hockey. And we just went from all this go to nothing. Just us, our jobs, and our dogs. And so the house was just too quiet. So it keeps us moving, it keeps us active, and it keeps us present. Because it's one thing to follow and listen to politics and have your opinion about politics.
Yeah.
These children bring certain things that people neglect, overlook, bitch about, with regards to, taxes and helping children. So my politics are quite evolved around what I do, and my children are now involved in the politics of the day.
So fostering shaped the way you do politics and how they make laws and policies? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, how their policies for what they view need to change. Because we're blaming poverty on the poor, and that's not how it works. There are certain groups that would like to have life a certain way, and when they do, then you're put in circumstances where you may not be able to support a child or be mindful of a child. So if you want to be politically minded, you've got to stay with your politics from conception to adulthood, and you have to support them. So I just find that there's a big gap in support for children who are in foster care. They're used as talking points, but especially in this state, there's not really much done to advocate for them, and
not a lot of awareness.
There's not a lot of awareness, and then most people don't want their tax dollars going to support somebody else's child. So, there's really there's no voice for these children.
Yeah.
There's no voice for these children. So, like any other minority, they're being neglected and they're being left behind.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be struggling to house children. We shouldn't be struggling to help children. That should be number one. It's far easier to educate a child than to keep him in prison, and that's proven. That's not just my view. There are lots of statistics out there. So why not help the child from the get-go?
Mm-hmm. So any way to educate the child is the best way.
Yeah. And then my kids come with me. So my kids are activists. My child spoke on the Capitol steps in Columbus because I represent a non-profit organization, just a part of a chapter in Cincinnati. And she spoke in front of 450 people on Mother's Day with regards to foster care in Kentucky and Ohio.
And how old is she?
She was 8 at the time, and she's now 9.
So you involve your foster children in the things that you do
yes.
on the outside, but you give them a choice to
they're
what they want to believe in.
Well, yeah, I don't dictate, but they're always with me. So when we are out feeding the poor, they're feeding the poor. when we are helping communities such as Winton Terrace with resources, education. They're there helping with me. My longest term child, she bakes for them. So if I have to go do a support or a teach-in or something, she will bring their kids all her clothes that she's handing down, baked goods. We always bring tons of coloring books and pencils. And so she gets to see how lucky she is that she hasn't fallen through the cracks. So she understands where she came from.
Yeah. And so that allows them, I'm sure, to realize, you know, that even though they've been through a bad situation,
yeah, it could be worse.
Worse, yeah.
It could be far worse. So, yeah, no. And I have a little activist, so.
Yeah, you sure do. She's great, though. So what is one thing or a few things that you think incoming foster parents should know about being a foster parent?
That there are no hard lines, there's no hard rules. Most of these kids are wounded. And again, trauma affects the brain and affects the brain permanently. So you have to take that into consideration. A lot of the times the kids are doing things, they have no idea why they're doing them. Sometimes at the end of a meltdown, they'll even tell you, I don't know why this is happening. I don't know how I can stop. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. And I just wait it out because we all have our times when we like to have meltdown. But just to make sure that you have patience, because it's going to be tested.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, just like any parent, I'm sure your patience is tested all the time if you have children. Not even if you have children, I'm sure with your friends. So it's just a learning lesson.
And we're married to men, so we're experts.
That's funny. All right. If you just joined us, I'm Nicole, the recruiter trainer out here at the Northern Kentucky office, New Beginnings Family Services. Today I have with me a current foster parent, Claire Lepore. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to hear from you. We're happy that you joined in, and we will be doing this every Tuesday. Today's the first one, so if you don't have time today, then feel free to join in other days. Anyway, so back to our questions. Like I said, feel free to ask any while we're talking, and we'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Oh, we have a question. Okay. So what has been the most beneficial service you have received during foster care?
The most beneficial service is finding an educational activist.
Through the schools?
No, actually through networking. There are so many different organizations that are tied into supporting foster care. So like the Family Nurturing Center, Point of the Arc. And sometimes I'm not a local, and I'm also an immigrant, and therefore I don't have enough knowledge as to what the human rights are for children in Kentucky. So when I was struggling to get the support from the school that I wanted for the first child that is with me, I found a professional advocate, and they're actually former educators, people who've worked for the state education system, who deal with adults and children with disabilities and so on. And so Point of the Arc, I found a beautiful person named Margaret Reed, who's since retired, unfortunately. And I would actually pay her as a donation, and you donate depending upon what your income is. So if you are at a lower end, it's just a running fee scale. And if you are at the higher end, they just ask that you donate this. It's going to the Point of the Ark, which is a charitable nonprofit. So it's also tax deductible for those who care about that. And
is this a service just for foster children, or
it's a service for absolutely anybody who has struggles advocating for any child within the school system. And they do way more than that, but that's just one thing that was, for me, was the, like, I wish I had found this when I was advocating for my own children when they were in elementary and middle school, because to me, all children are on the spectrum, whether it's at one end or the other. And I had a child that was completely at the other, and the school was just basically shutting me down, saying I didn't need extra services. I didn't need advancement because my child was already far ahead. And I didn't get those services. So I just basically
contacted Point of the Ark.
I found Point of the Ark with my foster child. I wish I had it for my biological child, because my biological child skipped 3 grades. That's how far ahead, but the school wasn't willing to accommodate that. So just
Point of the Ark came in, right, and helped you. And
yeah, so Point of the Ark, Point of the Ark, specifically Margaret Reed at this time, but there's other advocates there, knew the laws enough to know what questions to ask,
and it was
my school board, so that I could actually get the services. Because if you don't ask, they're not volunteering that information because it costs them money. And therefore,
so it's kind of another advocate, right?
Oh yeah,
school for the child,
or at the school. Because otherwise, I go. I'm in a certain school district. If you want anything done for your kid, you better bring your attorney. And that's the easiest way.
Are they considered attorneys?
No, but I mean, literally, if you start asking too many questions in my school district, they consider you a hard to work with parent, and therefore, you're just
pushed away.
You're pushed away.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what services my children were entitled to, so I do know now.
Good. So is this nonprofit Point of the Ark, is it just in Northern Kentucky, or is it in?
No, it's there are other chapters. There's one in Lexington. I believe there's one in Louisville. They're all called the Ark. The one in Northern Kentucky is called the Point of the Ark. But they do those kinds of advocating services. She's even come and taught a class here last year for us.
Oh, okay.
Just with regards to advocating for children. So she was kind enough to come.
So if any of you are interested in resources for Point of the Ark, you can always ask. I'm sure we'd be happy to give you that information. I'm sure Claire would be happy to give you that information as well. Let's see, we have some other questions from some people. If you're just joining us, hi, welcome. My name is Nicole, and I work for New Beginnings Family Services, and that's where we are live posting this out of our agency. Today we have Claire Laporte, who is a current foster parent, and we're asking her some questions, and if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. We have one question. What do you think the first steps are in advocating for kids in your home?
First steps for advocating in your kids, I think honestly is to try and get to know them as best as possible so that you can actually support them the way they need to be supported.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a child that's coming out of a very traumatic situation, then my first lead is therapy, 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 therapy. because when they feel that they're being heard and somebody is finally listening to them and paying attention to what they are saying and not being discounted, they kind of tend to relax a little, and they learn to trust again, because some of them have been put in some horrible situations, and I don't know, if some of them, if they never trusted another adult again, I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't blame them.
So have you seen, with your children being in therapy, have you seen a change in them, in foster children?
Yeah, I do.
Good.
I do.
And have you had, has New Beginnings provided therapy for every child that you've had in your home?
All the kids that I have in my home see a therapist on a weekly basis.
And the ones that you provided emergency placement for, therapists?
They all saw the therapists here that they're assigned to a therapist within the agency, and then my little last group didn't really need all that much therapy. So they would have been seen about twice a month had I had them longer than that, simply to help them get used to the trauma of being removed from their home and being discussed what they witnessed within their home. So, they may see a lot of things. Doesn't mean that they're going to understand it or process it properly. So the therapists break everything down.
Good. Okay. Let's see, we have another question. What services are provided for foster parents to assist them with self-care? I can probably answer that. So we have ongoing trainings monthly. In our office in Northern Kentucky, I do the trainings up here, and we do a self-care training specifically for foster parents and different things that you guys could be doing for self-care. One thing that we always provide is respite for parents when so they can utilize self-care, and a lot of parents go on dates with their significant other, and some use it maybe for a massage or even just downtime. Sometimes we are around chaos and children all day long, and we just need a break. And so allowing parents to utilize respite, which we help you guys find, and we will obviously offer to you guys, to every foster parent. But yeah, so utilizing respite is another good way for self-care. Do you have any ideas of what you've been?
During your trainings, you have a potluck.
Oh yeah,
and
we provide food,
and they provide
the
babysitting for the kids that are in your care, so you can actually get and work towards your credit hours every year, of which you have 22. So you can do them in-house, and there are grown adults, not teenagers. Well, I don't know about Sam, but that watch your kids and that feed your kids while you're taking a class with other foster parents. And so you also get to discuss and open up about what's going on in your home, and you get ideas from the other families who've been doing this longer, and it's just one less step. You're not having to look for a babysitter while you're trying to collect your hours, and if you're married, both spouses have to have the same hours, so it makes it very convenient for both my husband and I to come and get our hours done, and we don't have to worry about having somebody at home for the kids.
Exactly. Yeah, you get to get out of the house, and
yeah.
Can you think of anything else that?
I just
for self-care.
Yeah, I
Thanks for the question,
I'm a low
guys.
maintenance person.
Oh gosh. Okay. I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. If you just joined us, hi, welcome. My name is Nicole. I'm from New Beginnings. I'm the recruit trainer, and we have a guest today with us, current foster parent, Claire Lepore. So we're just asking some questions, and if you have any, feel free to ask away. Let's see. So when you started fostering, you had planned to just solely foster.
Yes.
And provide respite.
Correct.
So now that you can provide a respite for as many years as you have, how did that change? How, because you're planning on adopting right now. Sorry guys, we're having connection problems.
Is it still up?
Yeah, I think so. All right, sorry guys.